Hey everybody, and welcome to the first in a series of videos we're going to do here at CAD-CAM Consulting, basically introducing you to Mastercam 2023. Now, on the surface, there's not a lot different, but there's some really cool changes inside of the software. And a question we're getting a lot up front is the new job setup and machine group property setup. So that's what I'd like to take you through in this video. I already have a part presented on my screen. I have already selected my machine. That machine selection, download, all of that stuff is exactly the same as it has been in prior versions of Mastercam. Now, where you're going to see the change is when so many of us go into our stock setup, and typically you see the stock setup page. You're able to insert your numbers, add a bounding box, whatever the case may be, and that's where our change has come into play. So a new interface has been brought into the software. Now, I want to start up front by saying most of this, probably 80% of it, is exactly the same as it's always been. Some things just might be rearranged and located in different places. So don't panic. Most of it's the same. I'm going to start by going to the top up here and selecting the machine. Now, by selecting the machine, what that means is it's showing you the machine group properties, just like it always did in past versions of Mastercam. Okay, you have machine group 1, you have the output folder, the comment, none of that is any different. It even has the path to the machine definition, the control definition, and the post, just like it always did in the past. Okay, so a couple of things that has been rearranged a little bit are things like your sequence numbers. That has been moved over one page. Operations, output, things like that. That's all this page is. In fact, I can even configure the machine and go to my machine def manager just like I used to be able to in past versions. So little different look, pretty much all the same capabilities. Now, where we start to get different is the next tab down is what we call the master model. What the master model is, it's allowing you to set the workpiece itself, and this is primarily really for two reasons. The main reason is for simulation purposes, okay? This is not something you have to do, but it is allowing a little more functionality, a little information into Mastercam if you choose to use it. So I'm going to just choose my solid model here. You can either right-click and add from a level, or just pick that button there, same thing. And I'm just going to use my level number 1. And now Mastercam understands that that is my workpiece, okay? Now down to the stock setup, and this is where I think the bulk of the questions are coming from because we do not see the same page that we always had in the past. You can import in a piece of stock. Maybe you have a casting and you want to use that casting as your stock. Absolutely, bring it in, put it on a level, open it from a file. However you choose to do so, you can. That good old bounding box, as so many of us have used for years, we still have it, guys. It just looks a little bit different. That's what this button right here is all about, add from a bounding box. So now I can pick my model, either manually picking the model or just picking all the geometry on the screen, just like we always have. You can expand the size of the model, just like we always have. If I add, say, a 1/4 inch to each of these fields here, you can see the stock updating on the fly. Again, nothing new there. You have orientation settings. You can change cylindrical settings, okay, sphere, wrap settings, things like that. Your geometry stuff down here at the bottom where it always was, okay? So when I get out of this, see how it even dimensions the stock for me? So this is a pretty cool function. Now, something that's a little different. The material page has been put on the stock setup page now. So notice the material here in your material libraries, that's this here. And actually in the material in the stock setup, my mistake, this is a read only. Your material library is here in the master model, the engineering information for the material of the part. You have access to the full Mastercam tool library, the full Mastercam material library. If you want to add a new one, you can name it, give all the displacement things, and if I want to use Mastercam's library, here it is. Okay, all of this is the same that it was in past versions. It's just a little different look. All right. Now, as I mentioned, notice I switched to 6061. So the read-only portion of the 6061 in my stock is here as well. One reads the other. The next up is the work holding. If you want to add fixtures to this, you can. Again, this is for simulation purposes. I can add from a level. It just so happens I have a fixture on this particular part. I can set colors. I can set the remainder, basically part remainder here. Tools. This is kind of combining my tool manager with my job setup and my machine group setup. Okay, as tools are being used, they will populate here. Okay, and then you have the other settings you used to have in your tool settings page, like your feed calculations, assign tool numbers sequentially, arc feed adjustment, all that stuff that you always had is embedded right in here. And then lastly is the simulation setup. This used to be something you had to do separately, actually up here in the machine tab, and you had the simulator settings and options. And there's basically the same setup here with a couple of additional things. Okay, so that's basically it. Quickly to review. You pick the machine, your master model, which you do not have to do, your stock setup, your fixture or your work holding, you do not have to do, your tools setup, and again, this is going to kind of populate when you do your tool manager and you work with the tools as you tool path, and then lastly, the simulation. Okay, so now that this has been done, I'm going to throw just a quick facing operation on this. You'll notice as you go through the tool parameters page, looks a little bit different, but same basic principle. And I will just set my top of stock and depth. There we get a tool path. Okay, so now when I run this in simulation, we are used to using things like backplot, verify, etc. So here's my fixture. There's my part. Okay, I can turn these things on and off. The workpiece, the tool path, and as I run this, it's all set up and ready for me. If I want to use this in the full simulation, now the machine is in play. Okay, there's my original stock piece, and now I can watch it run on the actual machine. So in review, gang, this is not a lot different. You've got your stock setup, you got your tool settings, your machine setup, or what we used to call files, and then the additional things like the master model and the fixture setup, which actually we've always had fixture setup too. This is just a little more a user-friendly way to access it and then import it into the simulation. So again, this is the first of many videos we will be doing. I hope this is helpful, and as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.